Hey besties, welcome back to my channel. Today we're in a new location filming the best video of the entire month, aka we're wrapping up my June reads today. I read / listened to 14 books in the month of June. I cannot even believe it. I really leaned into audiobooks this month. Like, I did not go anywhere without an audiobook. Walking around the grocery store, browsing around home goods, in the car, like I was always listening to an audiobook. And I actually cut out nighttime TV. I didn't start a TV series with my boyfriend this month, so while he's been watching his show at night, I have been reading books. And I cannot even believe I've hit 14 books for the second month in a row. If you would have told me this time last year I was gonna read 14 books in a month, let alone 2 months in a row, I'd been like, you're crazy. I like reading, but I'm not that kind of a reader. Well, apparently I am. I love it. It's so soothing. And today we're gonna talk about all 14 books that I read this past month. If you guys are new here, hi, my name is Gracie. I live in Tampa, Florida. I do travel, lifestyle, and books from time to time. You guys can add me on Goodreads so you can always keep up with what I'm reading in real time, as well as I always update my Amazon storefront, as well as my Like to Know It, so you can purchase those books that I'm reading through those links. We've got a lot of talking coming up, so let's get into it. Actually, one last thing before we get into it, I want to make this a spoiler-free video. I did this in my last video and I want to continue doing it in this one, where I will not give you any more information that you can't find on the back of the book or on the website description like Amazon. I'm not going to go into anything specific to spoil these books for you guys. A lot of the times I like to go into books blind or semi-blind, so that's what I'm going to do for you. Really just give you more of my reactions on these books that I'm going to be going through, and give you a little bit of a plot premises like you could find on the back of the book or on, let's just say, the Amazon description. Okay, now let's get into it. I'm gonna go in no particular order, but I am gonna start with one I absolutely loved this month. Y'all know I'm an Ali Hazelwood stan. I read 2 of her books this past month. My goal was to read all of her books this month. I think there's like 2 mini short stories of hers I still haven't read yet. But first, Ali Hazelwood book of the month was Love on the Brain. I thought that this was such a great romance. I've kind of wanted to get out of romantasy a little bit, because if you've seen any of my videos from the beginning of this year, I was really into ACOTAR and Throne of Glass, and I was like, okay, we're going into summer months. I just want nice, light, beachy reads. I did get a little bit of romantasy in toward the end of this month, but my goal was being on vacation a little bit earlier in this month and just having it be a summer month. I really wanted to read romance books. I always say this, but Ali Hazelwood romance books make me feel a little bit smarter after I'm done reading them, because there's so many scientific terms and other things that are in this book that I'm like, I feel like I learned. And I feel like she does a really great mix of that, and I always just like love these men that she creates. I'm like, these guys are so perfect. So as always, I'm gonna read a little bit from the back so you can get a little bit of a backstory without any spoilers. B. Königswasser, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, it's German, lives by a simple code. What would Marie Curie do? If NASA offered Marie her dream neuroengineering project, she would accept without hesitation. Duh. But the mother of modern physics never had to co-lead with Levi Ward. But Levi made his feelings toward B clear in grad school. Arch enemies work best when employed in their own galaxies far, far away. XYZ, all of this stuff, it's basically arch enemies coming to co-lead in a lab together. And of course, if you can't tell, obviously something ends up happening in this book. I love that there are twists throughout this book. I think a couple things were a little cheesy, but that always happens in a romance book. But overall, I loved the characters, I loved the plot, I love the setting. Like I said, it just makes me feel smarter to read Ali Hazelwood books. So if you're looking for a nice romance read for the summertime, definitely pick up Love on the Brain. I know it's not a newer one. I couldn't even believe I haven't read this one before, but I really enjoyed it. We're now going to transition into something I listened to as an audiobook. This is Tom Lake by Ann Patchett. I think the best part about this audiobook, yes, it's a great story and it's so sweet and there's so many things I love about it, but it is narrated by Meryl Streep on audiobook. I genuinely Googled after I finished this audiobook, what other audiobooks does Meryl Streep voice? And it's like nothing. She really doesn't voice much else, because the way she told the story, the way she did the characters, the way that everything worked out with Meryl Streep doing this audiobook, I was obsessed. I couldn't get enough. I was moving out of my apartment and into this one while I was listening to this audiobook, and I could not stop. I was listening to this everywhere and absolutely loved it. Plus, if you know me, I'm a theater girly, so when it talks about Our Town, which is a play that I've actually seen, but my school put it on, I think when I was in middle school maybe, and my sister was in it for a hot second. So like when it brought up Our Town, I was like, ah, I love it. I will just read you a little bit about this book without giving any spoilers. In the spring of 2020, Laura's 3 daughters return to the family's orchard in northern Michigan. While picking cherries, they beg their mother to tell them the story of Peter Duke, a famous actor with whom she shared both a stage and romance years at a theater company called Tom Lake. As Laura recalls the past, her daughters examine their own lives and their relationship with their mother and are forced to reframe their understanding of the world they thought they knew. Tom Lake is a meditation on youthful love, married love, and the lives of our parents led before us before they were parents. And I'll stop there because seriously, it's just a great story. And obviously I loved it that there were 3 daughters because I'm one of 3 daughters, and I just love the story. I loved the way that Meryl Streep told this. It is just such a sweet time. Again, like the book says, of thinking about what happened in your parents' lives before you were ever brought into the world, and kind of how she met her husband and had the kids and how they came to be in the life that they had. So if you haven't had that conversation with your own mom, you should, because I feel like this was just a story from a second mom or something. I loved it, I loved it, I loved it, and definitely would recommend the audiobook version. Let's go to one I really didn't like. Normal People. Okay, I feel like this book is hyped up so much. I picked it up honestly just a few days ago because I was like, okay, this is a short and sweet book. I'll be able to read this. Boom, took like a day and a half between doing some things. I didn't love it. I felt like, why do people talk about this book so great? Like, I gave it 3 stars because I felt like 2 was a little too harsh, but I felt like I wasted my time considering how much other people hyped it up. So if you've been hearing Normal People by Sally Rooney hyped up for years now, and you read it and you're like, I don't get the hype, I'm with you. I'm with you, because I was like, what's so great about it? I don't know. Connell and Marianne grew up in the same small town, but the similarities end there. At school, Connell is popular and well-liked while Marianne is a loner. But when the two strike up a conversation, awkward but electrifying, something life-changing begins. Normal People is the story of mutual fascination, friendship, and love. It takes us from that first conversation to the years beyond in the company of 2 people who try to stay apart but find they can't. Like I said, it wasn't a bad book, but it being hyped up so much, I was definitely let down. I would skip this and go for many other romance books that I'm about to suggest. Oh my freaking goodness. Okay, so Ashley Poston wrote The 7-Year Slip, which I also thought was an overhyped book. I don't know, I feel like I've just heard so many people talk about it and I just didn't really see it. But this one, a novel love story, she had me like up until the end. I felt like this book could have been a little longer. I felt like there were parts she could have really fleshed out toward the end. I felt like something was very abrupt and then there's so much time had passed and I was like, oh, like I wish you had a little bit more fluff there. But I freaking loved this book for like 98% of it. I was so close to giving it 5 stars and kind of killed it at the end for me, but it's so cute. This is a beach read. Pick up this book this summer because it was so easy to read. You are sucked right into this world and it is just so darling and such a great concept. Elsie, the main character of this book, loves a book series by an author. The author passes away before she can finish the 5th book in the series. As she's on her way to an annual reading retreat that all of her friends pulled out of, and she decided, okay, I still want to go. I still need to go for me for this. Her car breaks down and she ends up in Aloriton, the fictional town from the books that she's been reading. I will just leave it there, but imagine like stumbling upon the town of a book that you love. I was thinking like, oh my gosh, if I ended up in Valeris in Akatar, I think I would die. So just imagine going to your favorite book series town or place and getting to live a little bit of your life in that town just for a sweet moment. And let me tell you, it was just so stinking cute and I really liked this. I flew through this book. Listen for the Lie, Amy Chintera. I also listened to this one as an audiobook, again, kind of while I was moving out. This had me on the edge of my seat. I feel like reading the book, you would want to fly through this, but especially listening to it, like I said, same thing with Tom Lake. I found any excuse to have my AirPods in and listening to this book, wanting to know how it was going to turn out. I feel like especially with mystery books, I don't want to give away any spoilers, so I am going to read the cover again for this. But Lucy and Savvy were the golden girls of their small Texas town. Pretty, smart, and enviable. Lucy married a dream guy with a big ring and an even bigger new home. Savvy was the social butterfly loved by all and, if you believe the rumors, especially popular with the men in town. But after Lucy is found wandering the streets covered in her best friend Savvy's blood, everyone thinks she's a murderer. It's been years since that horrible night, a night Lucy can't remember anything about, and she has since moved to LA and started a new life. But now the phenomenally huge hit true crime podcast, Listen for the Lie, and its 2 good-looking hosts, Ben Owens, have decided to investigate Savvy's murder for the show's 2nd season. Lucy is forced to return to the home she vowed never to set foot in again to solve her friend's murder, even if she was the one to do it. The truth is out there if we just listen. The main character doesn't even know if she killed her best friend or not. It's amazing. It's so good because you're going through it with the character, like finding out who was the one to do it. It's so good. It's so good, and I'll leave it at that. Icebreaker, Hannah Grace. Now I heard this one was spicy, but I heard it was so good. okay? I don't know what your level of spice is compared to my level of spice. I like a little spice in a romance. This book, I almost stopped reading. For me personally, it was too much. It was all the time. It was just so much of the book that I was like, you could have done so much more with this. But I understand that's probably the target audience. Like, don't be fooled by the cover. Do not be fooled by the cover. But again, it's a very highly talked about book. There is the second one in this series, which is more summer themed, called Wildfire. I do have it at the library, but after reading this, like, I'm not sure. I've heard so many good things. But for me personally, it was a little too much. Like, I felt like reading it. So up to you on whether or not you want to pick up Icebreaker. This is not so much of a summer romance, but it is a romance book. So if you just like a romance book while you are sitting, oh look, my hair's on it, while you are sitting on the beach, this could be for you. Probably my 2 favorite books of the whole month, or 2 of my favorite books the whole month. And yes, I'm lumping them in together because they are books 1 and 2. Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows. These books have been on my TBR for a while, but like I said, I was kind of trying to stay out of the fantasy realm for a little bit, but you know, 2 books for the month, it's not so bad. Oh my stinking goodness. I gave Divine Rivals 4 stars, and I also gave Ruthless Vows 4 stars. And then for the next 48 hours after finishing this book, I could not stop thinking about this one in particular. So in fact, I gave it 5 stars. It may be my only 5-star read of the whole month. I'd have to double check. I always put the Goodreads stuff on the screen here, but let me tell you, I loved it. I loved it. I flew through these books, flew through them. I'm gonna focus only on telling you about Divine Rivals because I don't want to read anything from Ruthless Vows and like ruin something that happens in the first book. So just know that I thought that the second book was better than the first, which is pretty rare for me. I don't know, I feel like the first one's always amazing and the second one's like close enough or just about the same, but I feel like it never really surpasses. But let me tell you, in my opinion, it did. So here's the second book. In the first one, after centuries of sleep, the gods are warring again, but 18-year-old Iris Ruino just wants to hold her family together. Her mother is suffering from addiction and her brother is missing from the front lines. Her best bet is to win the columnist promotion at the Oath Gazette. To combat her worries, Iris writes letters to her brother and slips them beneath her wardrobe door, where they vanish into the hands of Roman Kit, her cold and handsome rival at the paper. When he anonymously writes Iris back, the 2 of them forge a connection that will follow Iris all the way to the front lines of battle for her brother, the fate of mankind, and love. Divine Rivals is an epic enemies to lovers fantasy novel filled with hope and heartbreak and the unparalleled power of love. I love it. I love that this one doesn't really do like fae, dragons, that kind of stuff. It's more like the gods and the gods that have been sleeping for centuries and those types of things. So I thought this was so interesting, kind of unlike anything that I've read. And let me just tell you, like I said, the second one is even better. So go pick these books up. I don't care that it's summertime. You want beach reads, if you want beach reads, read them, but these, so good, especially if you want a little bit of an introduction to fantasy. Like maybe you haven't done ACOTAR or Throne of Glass or Iron Flame and Fourth Wing. Maybe you start with this one. Expiration Dates. I was recommended this book by my friend Mackenzie. She read it. I listened to it via audiobook. I don't know if maybe I would have liked it more reading it as a book. It was kind of to me. Like it was a 3-star. Like it wasn't a total waste of time or an amazing time. But I think that there are other books, again, that I'm presenting you that are better. But if you're interested, here's Expiration Dates. I'm only gonna read the first bit because I really don't want to spoil anything. Daphne Bell believes the universe has a plan for her. Every time she meets a new man, she receives a slip of paper with his name and a number on it, the exact amount of time they will be together. And that's all I'm gonna read you from the front. So just know that this girl, she's going on dates, she's meeting men, and like the day that she goes on a date, she finds out exactly how long that relationship's gonna last. And then it kind of brings you to which one lasts the longest. Do any of them last longest? Does she always just get a piece of paper with numbers, or will she find her happily ever after? It's a cute little concept, but maybe I shouldn't have listened to it as an audiobook. I just knew that I wasn't gonna have time to actually read it because there are so many books I want to read. So when it was available in my library as an audiobook, I was like, oh, why not? It's like been on the list. I think I should stick to like thrillers and mysteries to listen to rather than romance novels. Maybe that was just me, but it was okay. Ali Hazelwood, I love her so much. I picked up her new book, Not in Love. It just came out this past month and I had no idea what this book was about. I just said Ali Hazelwood, buy on my Kindle. I bought this book. I was like, I'm not waiting through the library to get this book. I want it now. Let me just read you, and this is no spoiler. When you open the book or turn the book on your Kindle, right after the dedication here, there's a note from the author. And as soon as I read it, I go, well, I'm already committed. I bought the book. I'm gonna read it. But let me read this to you so you know going into this the book premise. Dear reader, I just want to drop a quick note to let you know that Not in Love is, tonally, a little different from works I've published in the past. Rue and Eli have dealt with, and still deal with, the fallout from issues such as grief, food insecurity, and child neglect. They are eager to make a connection, but are not sure how to go about it except through a physical relationship. The result is, I think, less of a rom-com and more of an erotic romance. Rue and Eli's story has, of course, a happily ever after, but it also contains some serious themes, and I wanted to give you heads up so you know what to expect. I absolutely love and respect her for writing that note, but my jaw was like, oh, it's not a rom-com. Like, it's more serious than a rom-com. I still thought it was great. Again, like she said, it's not really like her other books, but the way she writes is so good. I can't not like a book from Allie Hazelwood. Like, I have yet to find a book that I rate less than 3 stars. 3 stars to me, that's kind of mid. Like, I think I gave this one 3 stars. A lot of her books for me get 4 stars. I don't even know if I've given Allie Hazelwood 5. 5 stars are pretty hard to come by for me. I have to really be feeling a book for a 5 star. I don't just give those out like candy. I know some people do. I do not. So 3 stars for this was pretty good. That's like 1 star less than I would normally give it. I hate that Goodreads doesn't let you do halves, because this probably would get a 3.5. I'll quickly read you a little bit about this. Rue Siebert might not have it all, but she has enough. A few friends she can always count on, the financial stability she yearned for as a kid, and a successful career as a biotech engineer at Klein, one of the most promising startups in the field of food science. Her world is stable, pleasant, and hard fought until a hostile takeover and its offensively attractive front man threaten to bring it all crumbling down. Eli Kilgore and his business partners want Klein, period. Eli has his own reasons for pushing this deal through, and he's a man who gets what he wants, with one burning exception, Rue. The woman he can't stop thinking about, the woman who's off limits to him. Torn between loyalty and an undeniable attraction, Rue and Eli throw caution out the lab and boardroom windows. Their affair is secret, no strings attached, and has a built-in deadline. The day one of their companies prevails. But the heart is risky business that plays for keeps. So that's what the back of the book says. It was good. It was good. It was not exactly like all of her other books, but I do think that Eli is so good. Christina Lauren, you guys know I love them so freaking much, and they came out with a book late this past month called Tangled Up in You. It's part of the series called Meant to Be, where different authors reimagine Disney princesses into romance books, and let me tell you, one of my favorite romance authors, my favorite princess. One of my favorite romance authors, my favorite princess. What? How is it possible I got so lucky to have such a mashup for this Tangled Up in You, a story inspired by the movie Tangled? I knew going into this book it was going to be a little silly, because if you think about Rapunzel being locked away in a tower, not knowing anybody, not being able to do anything, think about that in real life and how a real life person needs to adjust to the real life after being secluded for so long. Some of the things in here are a little silly, but I loved it so much. I mean, his freaking car is named Max. I'm dead, and it's a Mustang. Get it? Like a horse? Oh my gosh, I just love it. So I feel like I don't even need to really read the back of this or tell you any more about it, other than it's a romance novel inspired by the movie Tangled. And there's 3 other books before this. They do Belle, Ariel, and Cinderella, and I believe next year Mulan is coming out. I don't know how many of these they're gonna do, but this one just came out this month, and chef's kiss, loved it. I love Tangled, and I love Christina Lauren, so I knew that they could do no wrong with this book. And I was proved right. It was amazing. Mother-Daughter Murder Night, my last audiobook of the month. So I did 4 audiobooks this month. I feel pretty good about that. Again, a mystery. I love it. I'm always on the edge of my seat. But this one I feel like took me a lot longer to get through than I thought. It was a 12-hour audiobook, and I feel like there was just a point of time where I wasn't really listening to audiobooks so much. I will say some of this I felt like really could be cut. It wasn't my favorite audiobook I've ever listened to, but I didn't exactly expect the ending. So that's always good to me when I'm like, okay, that was worth it. It's not predictable. I didn't know exactly what was gonna happen. There's a lot of drama in this one. It's a mother, and her daughter. It's like literally 3 generations of women trying to figure out this murder that happened that the 15-year-old daughter discovered. So I'm gonna leave it at that. And you can look up the rest, but it was good. Last 2 books, and I read these 2 back to back, which was a big mistake on my part, especially for the second book, so I'll just show you these. Love in Other Words, Christina Lauren, another Christina Lauren book for the month, and Annabelle Monaghan's Same Time Next Summer. When I got this through the library, I thought it was her newest book, which I believe is called Summer Romance. Meanwhile, I got it through the library and then missed it and didn't download it and whatever. So I did end up reading this one. Boiled down, these are essentially the same book. I read Love in Other Words first, Same Time Next Summer, but it goes between the kids the girl and the boy being friends when they were younger to now older. They don't like each other, don't know each other, trying to figure it out, trying to figure out life. Same freaking plot when you think about it. And having read this one, I was like, oh, that was cute. And then going into this one, I was like, oh my gosh, I should have read more about this book because I was getting so annoyed. It's like, essentially, I'm reading the same book, different font. That's how it felt. But they were both two cute romance books. I think this was a 3-star and this was a 4-star. I love Christina Lauren. Like I said, they could do no wrong. This book has been recommended to me for so long. This book, I think I accidentally borrowed from the library because I wanted her other one that just came out, but it doesn't matter. I mean, they're both great summer, beachy, light-ish reads. I just realized, like, what a silly mistake. Like, if I had read these a couple books apart, or like one this month, one next month, I probably wouldn't think anything about it, but back to back was not a great idea. So if you're wanting to choose between two books that are basically the same thing, I'd go with Christina Lauren. But depends on how much you want to read. This one's definitely much smaller, but it's a little sillier in my opinion. I feel like I don't really need to read the back of them. Just know that it goes between childhood and adulthood. Like, it goes back in time and forward to the present, and it goes through their life and figuring out, obviously they're romance books, so you gotta assume what happens here, but they were cute. They were good. This one's definitely beachier. This one, in my opinion, is a little bit more well written. So up to you. Read both, read one. Do not read them back to back. Unless you really like that POV. I mean, you could do whatever you want, but I'm just telling you the way that I did it, I felt really silly that I just didn't know and didn't realize. So now you know. And those are my 14 books from the month of June. I cannot even believe it is the beginning of July. Absolutely insane, absolutely crazy. And I'm looking forward to all the books that I'm gonna be reading this month. I have no idea what I'm gonna start with, but I do know that Reckless, the Powerless second book, there's a book 1.5, Powerful, and then Reckless comes out tomorrow, July 2nd. So by the time you see this, the book is out. I have the pre-order literally coming here tomorrow, and I don't know if I'm gonna like try and get a book in today and partially tomorrow so that I can read that book, but like that book I'm gonna eat up. So check out my Goodreads to see. I have really high hopes for that book, and I'm so excited for it to come in the mail tomorrow. Anyway, all that to say, I love you guys so much. Thanks for sticking through all of my June reads. Let me know if you like these videos. If there's anything you want me to do in the next ones, anything I can improve on. Like I said, I'm new to a lot of these book videos. It is my 5th one of the year because I did combine March and April because I was out of the country. So I did March and April in one video. But yeah, I'm still kind of new to the whole book space. This is not gonna be a total book channel, but I do love reading and I love talking about them. And so yeah, let me know what else you want to see or if any improvements can be made to this series. Anyway, I love you guys so much. If nobody has told you today, I am so proud of you, whether you read 1 book, 0 books, 50 books. I don't know, that would be a lot in 1 month, but I'm so proud of you. I love you so much, and I will see you guys in the next one.